All right, so we are going to work on welcome to the forms class. It is April the 6th, 2021, spring break here at our house. So we'll go over a few items. We have a small class today, and we will go ahead and get started. I was going to start with the additional signatures addendum. There are times in estates, most likely you will see this, that we need additional signatures to the sale of a property. So always, if you're working with an estate, you would like to get a copy of the will. It will be required for the lawyer to review, and it's also good for you to review as the agent so that you know all the parties and all of the signatures that are required to sell the property that you're working on. So many times there are siblings involved, and there's only 2 spots on the listing agreement, and sometimes there's more than 2 people that are involved. So there is an addendum for that, and it's called the additional signatures addendum. And this gives you about 6 or 8 more options to put the parties' information, so their name. So this would just accompany your listing agreement if you have more than 2 people that are selling the home. Okay, so this is an additional signature addendum, and so it's the standard form 3T.
Anybody that is listed as an heir in the will would then need.
They would need to sign this, and
okay.
then the attorney would reach out to them, and actually, if they're married, their spouse would also have to sign an additional form. So it can, we can get a lot of signatures going around, but this primarily would be for the sale of the property, and who is listed as a party that has interest in the property.
Okay.
So yes, everybody would need to sign, all the siblings or whatever the relationship, the business relationship, whatever it might be. Anyone who has any stock in that property would need to sign. That was fairly quick. Just a little FYI, because sometimes people will squeeze initials at the bottom of the page. You got 5 initials and there's only 2 blanks. It shouldn't look sloppy. It should be professional. So they do have addendums for that. The listing agreement, we've gone over the offer to purchase and the listing agreement. We can go over one today if you'd like to, since you
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. All right, so in our listing agreement, we would need, let me pull up a couple forms here. We'll do a listing agreement with lead-based paint. So that means, well, we'll do one without lead-based.
Okay.
A little older. It's just one additional form that's different. So the exclusive right to sell, we need to make sure that it is completely filled out in its entirety. So remember that the listing agreement is with the sellers who are on the deed, as well as Lantern Realty and Development, not you personally, always the firm. And you can choose the effective date and how long this agreement will last, how long they want to list the property for sale. It can be the date that it's fully executed, signed by all parties, the sellers and the firm. Or you can choose, like I said, a specific date for it to roll out. Okay. Your expiration date, in this market, we shouldn't need it longer than 3 months to have the whole transaction completed. But I typically put 6 months there.
Okay.
In the normal in the normal market. So we want to fill out the property address in its entirety. We also need to fill out legal description, which is found on the GIS and different sites, government sites. You can pull up the PIN number for the property. If there is a subdivision, we need to list the subdivision, where it's recorded. If there's a plat map, we'll also need that for our file. And then the deed, book, and page.
Okay.
Reminding your sellers what the fixtures are, what stays with the home and what is personal property. So I try to go through this list and it in an overview, but yet seek any questions. Ask them if they have questions about something that may or may not be a fixed item, a fixture. All right, then we have anything that's leased or not owned. This would be satellite dishes, antennas. We don't really see a lot of antennas anymore, but I recently saw a house with an antenna installed. But anyway, we would want to list that here.
Propane tanks would fall there. Yeah. Okay. Fuel tanks. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, fuel tanks will go there. Any item that does not convey. So if they have a family light fixture that was passed on from their great aunt and they do not want to sell that, they need to really replace it before you take pictures. It's harder to negotiate. Well, you can say that it doesn't convey, but you don't need to be advertising it in pictures if it's not going to stay with the house.
Yeah.
Some people will fall in love with that fixture and then cause an issue later when they realize it does not come with the house.
Yeah, or just be disappointed that it.
Yeah. Any personal property, they want to include their washer and dryer or their refrigerator. With the sale of the house, you would list it there. If your sellers would like to offer a home warranty, this is their opportunity to do so in the amount of whatever you agree upon. There are several home warranty companies that Lantern works with, and we have material typically mailed to us or dropped off from vendors on the weekly basis, it feels like.
So right now in this market, is home warranty a thing or no?
It is a thing for buyers. I don't see it being offered by the seller right now. Not saying that it doesn't, but with this hot market, people are buying at way over asking price. You know, they don't care about appraisals. They're putting their own money down. I don't see it as much. But it is a thing. It's just not very popular right now.
Okay.
The listing price, this is where you'll need to run your comps for the area to give you a baseline to the conversation with your client. Now remember, it's their home and it's you guide them, but it's their choice.
Yes.
So if you say the house should list at 235, here are the comps that can support this house going at 235, and they want to list at 255, you need to have the conversation, you know, respect their decision, but advise them why you feel the way you do, and just make sure that you have evidence to back up what you're telling them.
Okay.
At the end of the day, if they want to list at 255, you write 255 right there and see how it goes. You can always change the price later. Cash and conventional loans are top in our market right now.
Okay.
I feel so bad for the FHA, VA, and USDA buyers because it's so tough. It's so tough for them to be accepted. But your client can accept any of those forms of financing. It's completely up to them. My firm compensation defaults, I just put this in here, at 6%, and we do not charge any other fees. Some firms do have a $295 admin fee that's like paid by the seller up front to retain them, that firm, to work on their house, but we don't do that at Lantern. And also the compensation is negotiable, so you can change that. All right, so just remember that the protection period, I like to default to 90 days. And that
Okay.
means if the house has been shown during the time you had it and it sells to someone who saw the home while you had it listed up to 90 days, then they're entitled to pay you the commission. Very important that we list that we're going to split that 6% with somebody else, right? It'd be nice to collect that 6% to ourselves.
Yeah.
But we share that with the buyer's agent, and I do half. Now, there are times that I don't do half, and I take, like, let's just say I'm doing something in my neighborhood, and I want the stronghold in my neighborhood, and I've been working on it for years. There are times when I will reduce the commission just to get something in my neighborhood, and I take the loss. But there are other times where my percent is maybe a 0.5% more because I'm paying for videography, I'm paying for drone, I'm paying for all these extras that the buyer's agent doesn't have to do. So there are times where that does adjust depending on what my sellers are needing from me. So
Okay.
it's flexible.
So for instance, it's been a while. There was a house I was working on. It didn't go through, but the buyer's agent, the buyer's commission was 2.5%. Like I said, my clients ended up not purchasing that house. So could that have been one of the reasons why it was set like that? Or are you saying that you're adjusting your end of the commission?
Yeah, you can do both. So depending,
Okay.
like right now, we have like 100 houses in Rowan County on the market.
Okay.
We should have 800.
Right.
So it's limited. So if you get a piece or opportunity to list a house right now, you know it's going to sell. So
Yeah.
you have the flexibility because there's these companies out there that are calling people, sending mailers that say, we will sell your house at 5% or at 4%.
Right.
And so you're trying to like, well, I can't do that, but I can do this.
How do you compete with that?
Yes. So you have to sell on how you're different and how you can benefit them being hands-on. You're not, in a different state. You can manage this, be at their beck and call. So it's an opportunity for you to, the total overall commission, let's just say you decide on 5%. Well, if you split that right in the middle, both parties, the buy side and the sell side, is at 2.5%.
Yeah.
So you could have done it just to get the listing. Something is better than nothing.
Yep.
Or it could be where you have more expenses and you take, a higher percentage and they drop down 0.25% or 0.5%. So it's flexible, but there's all types of scenarios. I used to be aggravated that people would reduce the commission until I had more experience and realized, wow, I'm spending a lot of money.
Yeah, you're spending a lot of money.
Yeah. So, you have to be flexible with that. So we come to the section here in section 10 talks about marketing. If we are going to delay marketing, if we are going to, what type of marketing we're going to do. Are we going to have signs in the yard? Are we going to have an open house? Are we going to advertise on the internet? Not on the internet? Door hangers? There's all different types of advertising that we can do, as well as coming soon. And remember, there is an addendum on the CMLS, the Canopy MLS page, that has to be filled out if you are advertising as coming soon, and your broker has to fill that out or sign. And then we have to say, are the sellers going to allow us to put a lockbox on the front door or the gate or somewhere on the property? So yes or no to that.
What's the other alternative? How would somebody get into?
You could be the listing agent would show it every time. And I've been
Every
to that.
time?
I've been that. Yes. It was not worth it.
I was gonna say.
I had to show for I had to be there to accompany every single showing. And I had
Right.
the listing for 3 months.
Right. So
and
that
it
means
was
open
just
it
like,
up, lock it up. Yeah. Okay.
I cannot believe I'm doing this right now. But anyway, it worked and it finally sold. But it was,
There you go.
I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, so we have an opportunity here to say, okay, we're going to offer this listing to Lantern agents only, an office exclusive. I have not done this, but I do know agents in other firms that do it, that offer it to their firm first and then put it out to everyone else. As a reminder about earnest money, is the home in a flood zone? Does it have flood or hazard insurance? Does it have synthetic stucco? Is there an HOA? If so, who do we contact? Is there transfer fees? You know, email address, all of that fun stuff needs to be provided.
Okay.
Listing here if there's a termite bond, and if there is it transferable to a new owner? Sometimes they are at a particular charge.
Yeah, we came from most of these things on the listing agreement I'm familiar with from when we purchased our house here, and apparently the termite bond on the property the owner had let the one on this house expired, but we worked out a deal with the company, and so they were pretty agreeable. They knew they were going to get my business in the future, so that's something to keep in mind.
Yes, for sure. Making sure that your clients here on Lantern site, on our dot loop, they have made it super easy to attach sample form to any of your client files.
Okay.
So just selecting all the samples and shooting them over to your client every time, whether they're buying or selling. That way you're covered, because
Okay.
on this listing you have to send them a copy of a sample offer to purchase, as well as a professional services disclosure.
Right.
And again, they're easy to locate. Are there any current liens? Now, I say yes, I ask this question, and I do not get into how much people owe. We will have that discussion if they're trying to like just break even. They may give me details. I have to list it at this price because I've got to pay the loan, and I've got to pay you, and I've got, other things that need to come out of it. So, but as far as me specifically getting all of their current lien information, I don't. And I leave most of that blank, because the lender will be contacted by the closing attorney to get the payoffs and all of that good stuff.
Okay.
Moving right along.
Let's go back to the lien thing for a second.
Yeah.
A line of credit, is that viewed as a second mortgage?
It can be. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If it's attached to the home, it can be, yes.
Okay.
Asking your clients if they are in the middle of a bankruptcy, because this happened to me. I knew that they were in pre-foreclosure, like they had sent the letters and gave a date that says, you got to be in court on this day. But we also communicated that, hey, they obtained a realtor. They're going to put the house on the market. So we thought we weren't truly in bankruptcy yet, that it was in like the pre stage of that.
Okay.
And come to find out, long story short, it held up our closing about 3 weeks, because on the bank side, we truly were in bankruptcy, but according to the seller, she was like, no, I'm not. But anyway, so all the lawyer fees and to take all that, pay out everything off, we were short $2,000. So
Hmm.
what do you do when you're short $2,000 as an agent? You have a conversation with the closing attorney and say, what can you do? Can you help me? Because they have a portion of the money.
Right.
And then I had a percent, coming as commission. So I ended up giving $1,000, and the attorney found $1,000 somewhere that
Yeah,
he ended up saving them. So they didn't make any money, but they didn't owe anybody else anything.
that was
But
good
it
for
was a
them.
mess.
Hmm.
My goodness. So always ask. And also here it talks about leasing. Is the property that we're selling leased by someone else?
Okay.
If there's been any FHA appraisals. So let's just say that the home had been listed for sale with another firm, and they accepted an FHA offer to purchase, and then it didn't appraise, and then the seller is like, well, I'm not reducing the price, so I'll just put it back on the market.
Okay.
So, or they fire the agent and move on to somebody else. If it's had an FHA appraisal in the last 4 months, we have to note that.
Okay.
Special assessments, that could be in HOA neighborhoods that have maybe they had enough money to do this project, but they've got a new project on the books, and it's going to cost the homeowner $100 per month for the next 3 years, and that's a special assessment. So always make sure that you understand the difference between a standard HOA and a special assessment, because they're two different amounts of money due.
Yeah, I live in Laurel Park, and our clubhouse just burned down.
Oh,
And all the neighbors are like, uh-oh, there's going to be a special assessment. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I think we have insurance for that. I don't see that as a special assessment coming. So
yeah. So I'm sure they are getting nervous though, just the unknown.
apparently it was kids playing with matches,
Oh no.
and they know who the kids are. But I had the conversation with my husband. I said, where do kids get matches nowadays? If I had to find a matchbook in this house, it'd probably take me 3 days to find one. I don't
Right.
even have matches anymore. Anyways,
That's funny. It's terrible about the clubhouse, but that's so true. You hardly ever see matchboxes anymore.
well, it used to be people gave them away at everything, restaurants
Yes.
gave them away, and they, like I might have those little boxes of matches somewhere, but anyways, sorry, I got lost.
If we have a manufactured mobile home, we need to
Uh-huh.
put the VIN number on the listing agreement. And there's
Okay.
also a metal plate somewhere on the mobile home. I've seen them on, like, towards where the tongue would have been for the trailer. I've
Uh-huh.
seen them on the back corners, but there is a plate that gives you all the detailed information, the year,
Okay.
the model, the VIN number, etc. You will need to have that information. And as you mentioned earlier about the fuel tanks being items that are not owned, here is where you describe where they are, if they're underground, if they're above ground, if it's oil, if it's propane, whatever's in those tanks. This is where you would let them know. All right. So are they the home inspection? We explained to the sellers that buyers are typically going to get a home inspection. And with that being said, the seller has to give them permission to enter into the house. So do they agree or disagree to let them in and then pay for it? So right now we are not paying for, as the seller, we are not paying for home inspection.
Okay. There is, if a buyer wanted to have a home inspection, even though they know that there is going to be no negotiating as far as if anything's wrong, how do you separate out that? I mean, on a different form somewhere, or, and I'm just speaking for this market right now. So let's say a buyer still wants to have a home inspection so they know what they're getting into, with the understanding that that's not going to be nothing that comes up on it's going to be negotiated. They're not going to ask for anything, or they just want to know about it, but they still have to have permission from the seller to come in and do it.
Yes, and that would be scheduled through showing time, just as every other
Okay.
showing would. Yes, so they would have confirmed or deny those
Okay.
requests. But yes, they should be. When you go over those sample forms, the professional services disclosure, it talks
Right.
about well inspections, pest inspections, home inspections. So that's a great opportunity to say, hey, the buyer has all these opportunities to inspect all of these things on this list. You just have to give them access.
Okay.
And if they choose to pay to have it inspected, that's on the buyer. So
Right.
just remember. And then they say, well, I'm not paying, I'm not getting any repairs done. Well, that's okay, because we just have to, if they send us a repair request form, then we just have to remind them,
Yeah.
we're not doing any repairs. The home is sold as is. Or your client could have a change of heart and say, okay, well, I'll reduce, that's very minimal. I'm not making the repair, but I'll reduce the purchase price by $1,500 and call it a day. Sometimes they do that. So there's ways to get around that. Just remind your clients that there's going to be photos taken of the home and posted on the World Wide Web, and that any personal goods should be put away. We want as minimal personal items left out as possible.
Okay.
If there's any other additional terms or conditions to the agreement, you would list it here. I've never filled that part out because I don't feel comfortable making terms and agreements
in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I put NA there typically.
Yeah.
Or none. Because I don't do that. And then here's an opportunity to go over dual agency again. Remember, we've already talked about it when we discussed the working with real estate agents brochure. This
Right.
will be the second time that we just remind them what a dual agency is. And reiterate that Lantern as a firm can bring the buyer, can have the seller, but you also want Lantern agents to bring the buyer. So it's not necessarily you personally working dual, but the firm working as a dual
It could be
agent.
the firm. Yes.
Yes. All right, and then reminder about wire fraud. As an agent, we never ask them to wire money. The closing attorney would be reaching out to them for their information on their loan payoff and all of that stuff. We do not get involved with wiring money or any of that stuff. So,
Okay.
have your initials and then the seller's initials through page 11, and then this is the detailed information. So if for some reason or something happens to you and this file defaults to Lantern, they need to know how to get in touch with the seller.
Okay.
So I've seen people that only put an email address, or they just put their name and their signature and the date. They don't fill out the mailing address. They don't fill out a working phone number. That is detrimental, because I was actually showing a house for another agent, and she had shared the file with me so I could know who I'm talking to, but I couldn't find the house. My GPS was sending me all up and down this other road, and I'm like, I'm going to be late. I'm going to be late. So my initial thought was, I'll go back to the agreement. This one was a buyer's agreement, agency agreement, but it's the same thing. And nothing was filled out. I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to get in touch with these people? So, like, you just have to make sure, even if you think it's minimal or you have it written down in another part of the file, it's very important to have it on this form so anybody can pick up or help you out if you need their assistance. And then your firm information, whichever office you work out of, Salisbury, Kannapolis, Harrisburg, Albemarle, Asheville, or I think we have one more.
Mooresville now, right?
Yeah, Mooresville. That's right. And that is it. So that is 12 pages of pure fun.
Well, that was very helpful.
Thank you. Well, I hope that you have the opportunity to review with one of those with your clients soon and get you a listing.
Well, what I've been, like I said, I live in Laurel Park, but I live in the cobblestone section, and I've been focusing on the cobblestone section specifically. There's about 160 houses back here, and so I usually put something out or in there, a newspaper thing underneath the mailboxes once a month. And right now, I'm curious to see what happens, because there was a cobblestone house listed for sale. Went under contract in a week, and boy, Melissa, when it went, I thought it was severely overpriced. Because I kept saying, shoot, if they get that much for their house, where can we go live so we can just sell it?
I know.
Grandma only has a 2-bedroom apartment. We can't move in there. But some of the neighbors out here, I know, have houses in the mountains, houses in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I'll wait to see how much this one truly does close at, and then reach out again saying, if you ever thought about selling your cobblestone house, look what this one went for, and we'll see.
That's right.
Out of it, because honestly, if I had somewhere else to live and I could, because this one, it's the same size as the model that I have and everything. It's $140,000 over what I paid for my house 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's crazy.
Yes, it is crazy, but it's happening every single day.
So you're kind of the first person that I've talked to in a little while. What do you think is going to happen, a couple years down the road when people overpaid for some of these houses and want to sell them again?
Well, I think there will be a conversation that is going to be had. But right now, with the interest rate so low, their payment is probably going to be the same as it was when they were financing the, less money at a higher interest rate. But I understand what you're saying. It's a tough position. It is a tough position, and the market will not sustain like this forever. But it's been going strong for several months, and I'm not a fortune teller, but I don't know how long it can maintain, honestly.
We hang out, well, every Sunday afternoon we hang out with this group of neighbors in the driveway. We started it last March. And so every Sunday night there's real estate questions, and and I'm no expert, but they ask a lot of questions that I'm thinking, when I do have a client, they're going to be asking me the same questions. And
right.
I'm not really sure that I have real good answers. I'll give you the best that I know of, and you'll have to make a decision of what you think works best for you.
That's right. That's right.
Anyways. Well, this was great. I didn't know I was having private lessons today.
Oh, well, I'm glad you joined in today. Are you familiar with like gas and mineral rights and what the professional services forms look like?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. What have you seen the overview of standard contract? That's a little hidden gem that I found a couple years back, but it's just like it's definition of what terms we use on the everyday that buyers and sellers may or may not know truly what it means. But it's called an overview of standard contract form, and Lantern has added it into their list that you can just highlight and move it over.
Uh-huh.
So it's good to share this when you do your samples. It's truly not a sample, but it is, I share it like a sample so that
Okay.
everybody knows what I'm talking about when I'm talking about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's really cool if you have an opportunity to find it or look over it. I would recommend it.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. And that is all I have for today. My kids are needing me.
Okay.
Unless you have something else.
No, I didn't have anything specific. Like I said,
Okay.
really, I'm just a eavesdropper, and hopefully I will glean some information, and if and when I need it, it'll still be in there. So this is good. This is a lot of good stuff for me. So
Perfect. Well, we will upload this conversation that we had today to our archive, and you can come back to it anytime. And if you have specific questions, you don't have to wait. I try to hold this class like every 2 weeks. And if you have specific questions, you can email me at melissayates4u@gmail.com.
okay.
And I'll be happy to walk you through something, or even I don't know in everything, and we may have to walk through it together and try to figure it out, but I will definitely try to help you.
Okay. Well, thanks, Melissa. So,
You're welcome, and I hope you have a fantastic week.
you too. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.